Welcome into the Blazers Uprise Postgame Show. Here are your hosts, Torrey Jones and Eric Brandt.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome into the Blazers Uprise Postgame Show. The Blazers tonight fall to the Cleveland Cavaliers by a final score of 104-107. Damian Lillard has a buzzer-beating three not go in. It went out. His shooting struggles continue on into this game. Had a couple nice moments from Dame in this one, but overall, his struggles are continuing. This was a rough game for the Blazers. They fall to 0-3 on their Eastern Conference road trip. This was about as poorly as this road trip could have gone. They lose to the Hornets, they lose to a shorthanded Sixers team, and they lose to the Cleveland Cavaliers. And I'm just going to jump straight into things with this one. Eric, man, this was a game that I was kind of at a loss for words for. I can't remember a game where I've said, what in the world, as much as I did tonight, at least this season, because there was a lot of inexplicable mistakes that happened tonight, and we'll get into all of them. I'm still just trying to wrap my head around what I just watched, because there are some things that went on in this game. What in the world was that? I don't know what that was. There's things going on here that I don't know what it is either, so I don't know what's going on overall, man. But, oh, man, this loss is painful. This loss is very, very painful. Frustrating, man. What are your feelings on this one?
Yeah, it's just you can't play well enough to have a good defense if you're constantly making boneheaded decisions and poor rotations. We had times, like we talked about this against Philadelphia, where they don't have a dynamic playmaker with all those guys out. So, like, why are we getting beat off the dribble so often? And why are we allowing them to get an open three? Like, there should be no reason why we're not able to stay at home on everyone. And we had times tonight where it's like Dylan Windler and Jetty Osman are the two players up top on offense. And somehow one of them gives up an open three to the other one when they didn't even set a pick or anything. It's just like so dumb. Like, I don't understand how we're that far out of position on all these plays. I guess you could look at that in a positive way and say, like, if we were just not completely stupid on the defensive end, we'd probably have a pretty good defense right now. But it's also frustrating that they're making such silly mistakes time in and time out. And it's also frustrating when it's seemingly good defense by 3 or 4 of the players, and then it's just one person, and it's often a different person every time just messing it up. And it just gets really frustrating to see that time and time again.
Yeah, I don't know how this team is still making basic positional mistakes that they should have had down on the first day of training camp, you know? Like, if you're one pass away, guarding the guy who's one pass away, you're supposed to be up to him in denying, right? You don't want to get back cut. You just got to kind of play in a spot where you can kind of deny the pass and not get back cut. That's where you're supposed to be when you're one pass away. And it's like, we'll have guys one pass away and they'll be 8 feet off their guy. And so, you know, Cleveland will make that extra pass to the guy one pass away. And sure, we'll kind of contest the three, but it shouldn't be as simple for teams to just have the ball up top, make a pass to the wing, and that guy gets a semi-open three. That's ridiculous that happens. And it's just basic mistake stuff. I mean, Rocco did it late in this game. Shetty Osman hit a corner three where they kind of slowly passed it around the arc to the corner, and Rocco took his sweet old time getting out on him. It's just stuff like that is extremely frustrating, man. And we've seen this team have some good defensive games, but we've seen more bad than good, and especially on the road. This team has been a very poor defensive team on the road, and it's a bunch of stuff that makes no sense because it's rotating out too slow, it's not being positioned properly, it's stuff like not pressuring the ball when we're playing aggressive pick and roll defense, which I've said all season, the main way you can stop the pass to the big man is by trying to smother the ball handler off the pick and roll with, the big and then the guard. The big is supposed to help the guard have more time to get back to the ball handler. You got to get up in him so he can't just, okay, both these guys are up, but they're not pressuring me. I can just pick apart the defense because I have space. We haven't seen guards pressure the ball off the pick and roll. And when they did in this game, we actually forced turnovers. Cleveland had 17 turnovers. That's the only thing that kept us in this game.
8 in the third quarter.
Yeah, 8 in the third quarter because we pressured a bit. In the NBA, Eric, the NBA is letting defenders get away with murder.
Yeah.
I mean, the Darius Garland ridiculous...
Or
slapping Simons in the arm and the face while he was trying to take a foul on the fast break, and they don't even call it. Okay, that's a tangent that I want to go on in a little bit. I don't want to go on it yet, but the refereeing is ridiculous. They're letting defenders get away with anything. So be physical, play up on the ball. And then it applies to just containing dribble penetration, because Damian Lillard was bad on the ball defensively in this game. And he's been this entire trip. He's been bad on the ball. And I don't think it's an injury thing or anything. It's just somebody starts to attack him and he just opens up. He just turns his hip and kind of opens the door, and then he'll run with them to try and keep up with them. But, you're allowed to be physical. Just cut him off. Slide in front. You get your chest in front of the ball handler. If there's a bunch of contact, the NBA isn't calling it this year. And if they do, at least you're not getting beat to the rim where the whole defense is falling apart, right? So it's that. And then when we close out, our closeouts are horrible. We oftentimes don't get close enough to contest the shot. And then even if we're not getting close enough to contest the shot, if whoever's catching the ball just drives on us, we're in quicksand. We close out short, but then we can't stay with the ball handler. I don't understand that. Some of the defensive stuff I don't understand, and it's extremely frustrating to see another team with poor guard defenders like Colin Sexton and Darius Garland. Colin Sexton's okay, but he hasn't been a good defender in his career, and they're just physical, and they don't open up the door, and they slide with us and bump us and don't get called for anything. Sexton had 1 foul in 33 minutes. Garland had 2 fouls in 36 minutes. They played physical on our guards the entire game and didn't get called for anything. Why can't our guards do it? Because our backcourt's bigger than theirs, but it's just that's the type of stuff I don't understand. I don't understand the mentality. I don't understand the issue with that. Why is that a thing?
Yeah, and you watch Sexton just hand check the crap out of Dame for 38 minutes, and the refs don't call that. He's literally has his hand on him. That's an automatic foul 30 feet from the basket. The refs are just letting him play. But we heard Chauncey say that we want to be scrappy if we're not going to be good defenders, and that's what you have to do. You have to get tough and aggressive and stuff like that. And I thought that was one of the main differences in this game, and really the whole road trip, is that we just have done a really crappy job of getting through screens. And it's forcing the guy defending the screener, whether that's Nurk or Zeller or whoever, to have to commit too much time to stopping the ball handler. And that's leading to open shots, whether it be a dunk by a setter or a kick out for an open three because someone else rotated to grab that setter. So it's just, I saw it happen with my own eyes. I watched it at least three games this season. We did a great job getting through screens. Even the games we lost, the problems weren't getting through those screens. The problems weren't our pick and roll defense. It was the backside of those with the other three players. But on this trip, not only do our rotations still suck, but now we're not defending the pick and rolls at all either. And that's just a recipe for disaster.
And it just pisses me off, man, because it's a focus thing.
Mm-hmm.
If we were so incapable defensively, we wouldn't have been able to have the game we did against the Phoenix Suns, to have the game we did against the Memphis Grizzlies, especially in the second half, to have the game we did the second time around against the Clippers. But the common denominator here in the last 6 games, Eric, is when we're at home, we play good defense. When we're on the road, our defense is awful. And I mean, we held them to 107. The only reason we did was because they turned over the ball 17 times or were a little bit loose. Otherwise, they shoot 53% from the field and 50% from three, right? That's not good. That's really, really bad, especially for an offense that was like bottom 10 in the league coming into tonight. So overall, that just shows you that it's a focus and an effort thing. And at what point are we going to say, okay, we really want to win? Like, I watched this team on this road trip, and I don't get the feeling that they want to win as bad as the other team, man. Like, Cleveland was scrappy today. Cleveland was out there hustling, and we had moments, and when we had those moments, we went on runs. But it's never sustained. And it's like we're always trying to fight uphill and we're putting ourselves into a position where we have to expend a ton of energy just to get back in games. And it's like, where is that from the get-go? I do not understand, because we've been down in the first half the last two games when we absolutely shouldn't have been. We give up a 37-point second quarter because we're just not hustling, not closing out properly, not paying attention to detail, not being in the right spots defensively. And it's just like a mental thing with this team that, I mean, I don't know, man. I believe in this roster defensively because I think they're physically capable, but I'm starting to have doubts whether certain guys are able to mentally be locked in consistently enough on the defensive end, man. Like, obviously defense was an emphasis during training camp, during preseason, and we come out and here and there we have some really good performances, but it's like, do we have to focus every second of practice and everything to defense just to get guys to buy in mentally? I don't get it.
Yeah, in terms of the focus and the effort, I mean, I think this team is kind of deflated with their leader struggling so much. And I know that seems like an excuse, but you can feel it. As Dame struggles, the energy just gets zapped out of this team. And the last two games, actually the last three games, the best stretch of basketball we played was with our second unit in the game and Dame on the bench. And I think tonight CJ was on the bench, and we cut it to one. And it's mostly the Ant and guys like that basically keeping us in games. And then we take Ant out, and I mean, Dame didn't play terrible until the last 6 possessions or whatever in the fourth quarter, but it's just, I don't know. It's almost to the point where just leave that unit in. That's 3 games in a row they made a run without relying on Dame bailing them out. Just let them sink or swim, and if the effort's not there, because at least that unit was hustling up and down the court, moving the ball. They were pressuring. They were aggressive on defense. Even when they messed up, they recovered quickly and stuff like that. But yeah, I just like to see those kind of efforts rewarded, and not just say, hey, you know what, tonight we're not going to go back to the bench. We're not going to go to the stupid 4-guard lineup. And that's the frustrating part too, is because Ant's playing so good, so you almost have to play him, as many minutes as possible. But our best 4 players are pretty much guards right now, so we have to play the 4-guard lineup at times, but that's just not it. We can get away with 3 guards. I have no problem with that. But the 4-guard lineup just isn't it, I don't think.
Yeah, I don't think so either, and that's why Anthony Simons playing so well makes me even more willing to trade CJ McCollum. I haven't been on that bandwagon, but yeah, right now our 4 best players are guards. It's hard to make that work. So, shout out to Roger for a $2 dono. He says, let me find it here. He says, been a big Nurk supporter, but he's just awful. And appreciate the dono, Roger, but I don't know what game you watched, because Nurkic was in my opinion, our hardest playing defender and our best defender on the court tonight. And we outscored Cleveland by 10 in the 28 minutes that Nurkic played. Nurkic was a +10. Defensively, I thought he was phenomenal tonight. He cleaned up so much of the mess caused by our poor perimeter defense. He had didn't have a block, but had a lot of contests around the rim, making guys miss. We were a much better defense with him in the game. He played hard tonight, too, in my opinion. Like, I don't understand the Nurkic hate, and I saw a couple other people in chat. I don't understand after tonight. Like, he was the hardest playing player, in my opinion, tonight, and he still hate. Like, if we lose a game and Nurkic doesn't have at least 20 points, and even if he does have 20 points, like on opening night, it's just going to be a bunch of hate. I don't understand that.
Yeah, well, like AZ Nightmare says, Nurk's PNR defense is so bad every time. Literally runs PNR against us because of that. So, okay, all the people saying Nurk's garbage, trade Nurk. Nurk sucks. What are you talking about, Tori? You're being stupid. Like, stop this nonsense, Tori. Like, right? You guys watch this show for education, right? And let me tell you why this is wrong. Okay? Because most of the people saying that, this is what's happening. Our guards don't get through a pick, so Nurk has to guard the ball handler. His guy rolls and gets an open dunk because the guard didn't get through the screen. And then you casuals will sit there being like, oh, Nurk's terrible. He let his guy get a wide open dunk, right?
Yeah.
That's not what's happening. Nurk is doing everything he can to cover for those guys being completely taken out of plays inexplicably. And that is not his fault. He is playing as good as he can play on those pick and roll coverages. And until you saw it, I mean, we've seen examples, like 30, 40 examples of it this year, where Nurk hedges that screen, shows on it, ushers the ball handler away from the basket. The defender of the ball handler gets through the screen cleanly, and Nurk recovers to his man wide, like perfectly. That's not happening anymore. That's what the problem's been the last 3 games. The guards not getting through. They're dying on the screens, and they're not scrapping through them. They're not fighting through fast enough, and it's killing us. And teams know that they can exploit that, and it's not Nurk's fault in that position. It is the guard's fault for not getting through that screen. If we were switching and or Nurk was doing something to cause a switch because he's not like communicating well, or he's out of position on those, or he's like not in the right spot, but he's been in the right spot like every time, and that's not on him. And then he recovers back, and then someone else overhelps when they shouldn't have helped, and they give up a wide open 3. It makes no sense. And yeah, I wish I could show you examples of that, Apple, but like, Nurk isn't perfect. That's not what we're saying. We're not saying he's like playing well, because no one really played well outside of maybe Ant has been about as good as you could play this year. But other than him, it's hard to say that any one player has been good or even above average. But I'm telling you guys, on the defensive end, the problem is not Jusuf Nurkic. He is playing at an elite level. He is one of the better defenders in the league. And it is not his fault that our rotations and our guards cannot get through a screen.
Yeah. I mean, that's facts, man. I'm going to believe that. See, if I didn't know any better, I'd believe that over people in chat saying, nah, he's mid, he's trash, he's terrible. Like, bring some substance to your arguments. Come on. We challenge our viewers to learn a bit about the game of basketball. And if you come in here with a hot take like Nurkic is absolutely awful, bring some evidence other than just conjecture like he's soft. Like, talk about the actual sport, not just cliches and simple terms thrown on him to be negative, right? And that's a great point, man. People see Jared Allen getting a dunk and blame Nurkic, but there's so many nuances to a defense. Just because the center scores doesn't mean that it was the center's fault defensively. You know what I mean? Like, I hate how people will just look at a matchup and be like, oh, well, this point guard had a good game, so that means Dame played bad defense. Basketball is so much more nuanced than that. And I'm not scared to call out Nurkic, and I've called out Nurkic before, and I'm not scared to call things out. You guys will hear it in a little bit because I have an issue with a couple of the things Dame did tonight, and I just called out his defense, so I'm not scared to call him out. Nobody's scared to call him out. I just don't understand why people think he, like, didn't try tonight, because I've seen that. I thought he played pretty hard, and he's having to cover for a lot of mistakes. So offensively, yeah, he didn't have a particularly good game tonight. He's 3 for 7, had a couple bad rolls, had a couple of good rolls, but 3 for 7. You want him to shoot more efficiently than that. But defensively, he's been good, and he was good today. Like, I don't know how a player is so trash, but, you know, with him on the court tonight, we had a much better defense than we did with our bench lineup, and that's why he was a plus 10 with him in the game. I mean, plus minus has some noise, but overall, I thought he had a good defensive game tonight. You guys can disagree. It just seems like he's the punching bag right now. And Blazer fans have done this for over a decade, man. There's always a punching bag on the team where if they play a decent amount of minutes and something goes wrong, it's like automatically their fault or they're automatically trash. Nurkic had 20 and 14 in game 1, and people came in here and were saying he was trash, right? Like, I don't understand why people hate on him so much, but like overall they'll focus on one possession, like when Dean Wade guarded him in the post, and that's all their analysis is based on one possession where Dean Wade plays good D. Like, really, is that what we're gonna do, chat? So overall the Nurkic stuff is just ridiculous. We spend so much time on this, like I don't want to spend too much more. It's just it's silly.
I do want to address this. So our guy People's Mix says Nurk catches the ball in the same position Allen does, but Allen's throwing these monster dunks and Nurk throws up these flip shots or whatever. That is false. We do not have... When does Nurk catch the ball next to the rim wide open for a dunk? And when he does, it's automatic. He dunks that every time. And it's been mostly coming down the baseline, like I mentioned 3 games ago. Haven't really seen that much since. We're still giving the ball in the middle of the paint where he has to make a move and dribble the ball. And honestly, there's the time when he posted up Wade. He gets pushed out way too far away from the hoop and tries to do a stupid shot. That was a bad play. But we saw the Cavs set cross screens with their bigs, and they get lower post position, or someone gets open a lane because of the screen, and our defense gets like mixed up or whatever. We don't do any of that stuff. We have no way of taking advantage of plays when a person like Wade gets matched up on Nurk. We just post him up 15 feet from the hoop like we did with Melo, expecting him to be able to isolate, fade away someone. You know, it's like we can't do that. It's just terrible offense, and Nurk is not being used right by Billups. He is not doing any of the things he promised he was going to do with Nurkic. And I think that's affecting his offensive stuff as well. And these aren't excuses. It's just Nurk isn't the type of player that his role is right now. He needs to be more of the focus as a playmaker on offense and less as the role man expected to finish. And that is not, I don't know. We're just on offense, at least. We're doing the exact same things that got us into trouble in years past, and it's killing us right now, especially with Dame struggling.
And I'm not saying he can't play better. People come in here and say, "Oh, he's horrible," and that's the part I'm disagreeing with. Shout out shout out Grayson Placence with the $2 dono. Says, makes me want to rip my teeth out. I don't know what makes you want to rip your teeth out, but do not rip your teeth out. We don't advocate for that here. Shout out to Play-by-Play for a $5 dono. He says, Dame shooting 13% from 3 in our losses, and that's the common denominator. We win this game if Dame has a good game, and he hasn't really had a good game yet, and it sucks. 3 for 12 tonight, 25%. That's better than 13, but that's still not Dame at all. So, he has to find his shot.
And, I mean, we've seen Norman now tonight. He had a good game, and CJ can take over games. Ant's obviously proven that he can take over games. But almost everyone else needs Dame to play well, to feed off of. And Nurk especially, Rocco especially, those guys get open shots or better shots when Dame is on and has to get double teamed, and then that sends an extra defender away, and then that leaves Rocco open for threes. Rocco can't even really get an open shot very often right now because they don't have to leave off of him to help Dame as much. And Dame's not finishing at the rim either, as well as he normally does. So until I just think this team is kind of stuck in mud until Dame does something, but it's frustrating that we've shown flashes of being able to not need Dame necessarily, especially on defense. We don't need Dame out there. I mean, it would be nice if he was playing good defense, but we don't necessarily have to have him to get stops, right? We've known that all along. And then we don't, there's been times where Ants carried the bulk of the offense, and we don't necessarily need Dame to be effective. So I know we're kind of stuck between, because we have to have Dame playing better to win this year. But at the same time, right now, I just feel like everything runs a little more smoother when he's not in there, just because everyone's not so pressed or worried about when he's going to come out of his struggles,
Yeah, I agree with that. Let me thank Jake Buckley for becoming a channel member. I dropped a film breakdown yesterday, which is exclusive for channel members only. So if you want to watch our weekly film breakdowns, where I actually break down some of the action on the court and some of the footage, then you can become a channel member. There's a join button right below the screen. There's any level a channel member gets a film breakdown. So appreciate Jake for becoming a channel member. And then Scott Bossy, $14 Canadian dono. And this is the next thing I want to talk about, so this is a perfect donation message. Scott says, on offense, it feels like there's no movement with purpose. They want to pass, but there's nowhere to go, or the ball movement is too slow, and they miss the open man. Plus, we never drive and kick out. And I couldn't agree more. The movement is non-existent on this road trip, and it's extremely frustrating because, people have said, oh, well, Dame, Dame isn't used to be playing off the ball, and having him run a new system is not letting him get his rhythm. That's why he's struggling from three. Well, the last 3 games on this trip, we went right back to running a super stagnant, Damian Lillard dominant offense. He's still not making shots. It's not working, right? It's not an issue with the offense, and I feel like that was confirmed tonight. It might have been at the start, and overall he might have, needed some time to get comfortable in a different system, but that doesn't mean that we should go back to running a super stagnant offense. It's not going to work, especially when defenses are allowed to be more physical with you. It's even harder to have success with a one-on-one and pick-and-roll oriented offense. The problem is we're not used to moving things, so when we try and move players, try and move the ball, there's not a rhythm to it yet, right? And that's some of the growing pains I talked about us experiencing early on in the season, Eric. And it's super disheartening that we're going through all this pain, but it's not because of growth on the offensive end. We reverted straight back to what we did last year, and it's not going to work in the long run, especially as the NBA lets defenders get away with murder. I've always said that the more physical defenses can be, the harder it is to have success as an offense with one-on-one and isolation and pick and roll. That's why our offense has struggled in the playoffs after having really good regular seasons. We'll be like 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th in the regular season in terms of offense, and then we'll be like 9th, 10th, 11th, 12th in terms of the playoffs in terms of offense. So we regress, and it's because of our style of play. And we saw that last year against Denver, where, we lose Game 6 at home because we only scored 20 points in the final 16 minutes against a mediocre defense. So we have to find some sort of movement, and they're not running much right now, and it's frustrating. And that's the part I'm most discouraged by early on in the season, is the fact that the offense doesn't seem to be making progress, and it seems like Chauncey peeled back some of the stuff he was trying, and it's obviously not working.
Well, I'm going to put a little bit of that on Dame, because I noticed several times tonight him coming off an off-ball screen, and he just hesitated too long to shoot. He was afraid to let it fly. And then it's like, what do we do now, And he was open for a second on some of those. So, it might be a case where they are trying to run stuff, and Dame being hesitant or not fully confident right now in his shot is, I mentioned this before, I think for the first time in his career, he's kind of in his own head. You've mentioned that he you think he's aiming a little bit, which is pretty obvious to me that you're right on that. But I feel like he's like when we've tried to run plays for him, he's just his struggles are causing the whole team to be frustrated because they run a play and they run it well. They set a good screen and he's not hitting the shot or he's not shooting it at all. And then we get stuck in like an ISO situation or whatever. And but yeah, the
we've made. Appreciate the dono, Jake. I agree with the premise, but what I'm seeing play out on the court right now is not the team, like, moving forward. They could lose this game and still make progress if they're trying to move the ball, but some of the timing is a little bit off and they're turning over the ball because of it. Like, okay, in the long run, they should be able to figure that out and make progress, and this is just a part of the growth. But offensively, I don't think we're growing at all. I think we've started walking backwards in the past 4 or 5 games. Defensively, I don't like the stuff that we should already know by now being the issue. Like, over-helping. We're still making a ton of mistakes where we're just over-helping, and that's something I focused on in my film breakdowns, in the film breakdown that I dropped yesterday. It's mistakes that we should have fixed by now that have me more discouraged, because there's some things that the team still has to learn, some of the positional things behind an aggressive pick and roll scheme I understand, but when you're one pass away, you shouldn't be 5 to 8 feet off your guy. That's a basic defensive principle that for whatever reason, a guy like Robert Covington, who's always been really good off ball defensively, struggles with right now. I don't understand it. And it's just, before we went live, I told Eric, like, I don't even know what I'm going to say, man, because there's so much stuff that's happening right now that I don't have no explanation for and doesn't make sense. And it's not part of, like, the growth pattern with this team. So overall, I don't know, like, we've seen what this team is capable of defensively. That's what makes it more frustrating when we make silly and stupid mistakes that we shouldn't be making at this point, because we've seen what this team can do.
Yeah, and I agree, and also kind of agree with what Chris Stevens is saying. So obviously we're working on defense, and that needs to be better. It can't regress back, and it's effort and timing and communication and just being in the wrong position, like you mentioned, like that kind of stuff. I mean, yeah, it can get better throughout the season. So hopefully we're looking back in like 20 games and being like, oh, okay, thankfully we fixed all these things, because they can be fixed if they want to be fixed. I think we're kind of this is where, like, I believe in Chauncey still. I think he wants to fix those. I think he's going to do different things until they're fixed. And if they don't end up getting fixed, then he'll try a different scheme that maybe works better for these guys or something. Whereas in previous years, we just kind of let our defense do bad things. And if it doesn't work out, there wasn't like an adjustment or any kind of promise that it'll get better in the future, other than, oh, hopefully when people get healthy, we'll be better, right? So I have faith that if you just continue the process and players are still bought in, and the fact that we did have some early games with success to point to, and now we have several games to point to for what happens when we don't do that, as long as the coaching staff still shows the ability to make it work, I think it still can work. So I'm not 100% like worried about it being this way the whole season. And I do think Chris Stevens has a good point that we are kind of just letting our offense do whatever, and we're trying to focus on defense. But if this is focusing on defense, that's bad.
Yeah. I mean, and that's kind of where my worry comes in. We're like, if we're not even focusing on offense because we're focusing so much on defense and we're still making all these mistakes, like, I don't know, man. It's It's going to be interesting to see how this team looks like at home against Indiana, which is a team with a bad record right now, but I think they're more capable than they've shown. It's not a bad team. So overall, I don't know. I don't know what to make of this team, man. After the last 3 wins they have and the last 3 losses, dude, it's just like the ceiling is really high, the floor is really low. But like on the road, it's just we've been terrible. We're 0-4 and have played bad all 4 games. It hasn't been a situation where we've gone up against such a good team that we shouldn't have won. So it's frustrating to be at this point. Obviously, Dame shooting well could have bailed us out of a couple of these losses, but we need to be able to win games when Dame's struggling. And we're making so many other mistakes on top of Dame struggling that we shouldn't be making that you can't just blame Dame shooting bad for losses. We should have won this game, despite Dame not shooting the best. We should have won the Charlotte game, despite Dame not shooting the best. I mean, we were up 7 at halftime with Dame not shooting the best. We've won games at home earlier this season with Dame not shooting the best. So it's not... Our success shouldn't be predicated solely upon if Dame is making jumpers or not. It's hard to sustain that, especially as you get deeper into the playoffs and go up against better defenses that are geared to stop him. You got to figure out how to play a certain brand of basketball where you're doing enough other things well to accommodate a potential bad shooting night from Dame. But then you also got to do things where you get him higher quality shots, and right now the offense isn't doing that for him, right? Like, I would love to get him open catch and shoot threes. I don't understand, like, oh, Dame is so uncomfortable off the ball that, you know, he's going to struggle hitting shots. The shots he's getting right now aren't that quality. I feel like if you got him some catch and shoot threes that were somewhat open, he'd probably be shooting a little bit better than 25% from 3, and maybe it'd be easier for him to build a rhythm, right? So that's where I'm discouraged with where the offense is trended.
Yeah, but I can see why some people would think, well, we're playing as bad as we can play right now, so maybe there is some hope. That's what I'm going to lean on, that if we just stop playing like morons, like we...
I mean, yeah, like, long term, I'm not panicking. It's just, in the present, some of the stuff we're doing is infuriating. You know, and it's not a situation where like, oh, we're screwed long term. We need to trade this guy and trade this guy and do this and do that. I'm not talking trades until we're at least 20 games into the season. Everybody comes in here after every loss with like, do this trade and do this trade and do this and do this. And like half of them don't work under the CBA, and the other half, the other team would just laugh us off the phone at. So like, I'm not even discussing trades until at least 20 games in. We still don't know what this team is, but right now on the road, this team is really bad. At home, this team has been good. So it's just a situation where you have to find the consistency, and this team has not found it, and they've been consistently bad on the road. So yeah, man, I mean, long term, I'm not sitting here like, oh, we're screwed at all. It's just this team showed some good signs, and I think people, including myself even, like thought this team might have been further along than they were. And some of this stuff needs to get cleaned up soon and shouldn't still be happening, but it is. So the only way the team can fix it is by calling it out in film sessions, having Chauncey hold guys accountable, and having Chauncey look at himself like, okay, maybe these guys should be playing a little bit more. Maybe I should try these lineups, and the offense needs to get better. That's where we're at right now.
Yeah, and the frustrating part for me is we all knew that the Blazers' first 20 games were, if not the toughest, one of the toughest in the NBA. Now, a little bit of that can change from season to season when you're talking about it before the season starts, because you don't know if there's a surprise team or an injured team like Philadelphia on Monday. That should have been an easy win. So that's the frustrating part to me, is even with the struggles, we still could possibly or should be at least over 500 right now instead of 2 games under 500. And so you just have to find a way to not get in a deeper hole than we're at right now. And now we have to come back home from a East Coast road trip and play a back-to-back after 1 day rest and stuff like that. The schedule is not kind this month. So this is going to be a very tough test to see if this team can work its way out of the funk without a lot of practice time and while trying to do it on the court in actual games.
Yep, let's look at the team stats from tonight. 44% from the field, 35% from three, and only 9 turnovers for the team. So it wasn't a horrible game offensively. I don't know. You gotta shoot better than 44% from the field, though. And it would be nice to kind of match them from three. It's just weird looking at this because I felt like it was a fast-paced game, but maybe that's just because we pushed in transition. Cleveland really slowed it down a lot. I mean, we end up with 16 more shots than them, Eric. 16 more shots than them. And they only had one more free throw, and we still lose. If you get 16 more shots than the other team, and you're more talented than them offensively, I don't know how you lose, but this team figured it out. And I mean, if this team made some of their free throws, this could have been a win. But CJ McCollum's missing free throws. Norman Powell's missing free throws. Dame missed 2 free throws. Nurkic, the past couple of games, hasn't been good from the free throw line. We got to make free throws, all right? I don't want to sound like Sean's, but you got to make your free throws. And we're not right now. And in a close game, that comes back to bite you. But overall, we rebounded them on the offensive glass. You know, we missed a ton of shots, so they have more rebounds, but we had 10 offensive. They only had 5, and they were a much bigger team than us. You know, it was like, oh, they start 3 7-footers, and Markkanen was out tonight, but they start Dean Wade, who's another big, and, you know, it's like, oh, they're so much bigger. We're going to have trouble on the glass. We rebounded better than them. On the offensive glass, we had 10, they had 5, so that wasn't an issue. Okay, 12 steals, 5 blocks. They had 8 more turnovers than us. We forced some turnovers. We got out on the break a little bit, had 15 fast break points, had more points in the paint than them. I mean, like, if you look at some of these stats, it's like, okay, that's what we wanted going into tonight. But it just comes down to we didn't shoot well enough because we didn't get high-quality shots, and then they just went off against us, shooting 53% from the field and 50% from 3.
Well, I mean, how is it even possible? Is that number correct? 31 points for them off turnovers?
That's for us. We got 31 points off. That's how ESPN lists it. So.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right. All right. Well, then never mind.
Yeah, we scored 31 points off their 17 turnovers. I don't know why ESPN lists it like that, but yeah, on this graphic, if it says 17 turnovers for Cleveland and 31 points off, that means that there was 31 points scored off their turnovers.
Okay.
Meaning we scored 31 points off their turnovers. So
I was going to say, how is that even possible to score 31 points off 9 turnovers?
I know, and we only scored 5 off their 17. Yeah, so it's like that. Yeah. I mean, we scored off their turnovers. We turned them over and scored off of it. When we turned them over, we got out and ran and had a lot of good opportunities. I mean, the final time we tried to run off a turnover, they do a take foul on Anthony Simons that might have been a clear path, and they don't even call it, and it's a turnover. You know what I mean? So, like, that was just a ridiculous play and unfortunate, and the refs botched that. So that's the thing is, like, we need to get out and run, especially against a bigger team. That's where we can use our advantage in terms of being smaller and quicker, and we can get out on the break. So, overall, like, you look at this, the offensive boards, the turnovers, the fast break points, the points in the paint, and you would think that we won this game by double digits. It just comes down to our defense wasn't good enough today. We gave them a lot of high-quality three-pointers, and we didn't hit enough shots, and we didn't make enough of our free throws.
Yeah, for the second straight game, our free throws, if we just hit our normal percentage, we're basically tied.
Yep.
That's frustrating. But yeah, the 2 things that stand out to me are 29 assists off 39 field goals. That's just horrible defense. And this is what my point was earlier when I'm talking about they don't have guys that are playmakers on their team. Like, Colin Sexton isn't really looking to pass a lot when he drives. You know, he was shooting those floaters a lot. We give up somehow 29 of 39. You know, that's roughly just under 75% of their shots were assisted on. And then that's the frustrating part to me is, like, we can't have an offense predicated on ball movement where we get open shots like that when we have better playmakers and shooters and passers. Like, there's no way we shouldn't be able to have a better looking offense than a team like Cleveland, who we at every position, pretty much, we have a better playmaker than them.
Yeah, I mean, they're starting Dean Wade, Jared Allen, and Evan Mobley. That's our three starting bigs. And then off the bench, like, Shetty Osman isn't known as a passer or a playmaker for others. Neither is Dylan Widler. Ricky Rubio can pass, but the dude can't really score. He had 0 points in 31 minutes tonight, 0 for 7. So, like, him and Garland are really the only two good passers in this entire rotation that we see tonight, right? Garland has 10 assists. Sexton's not a good passer. He has 2 assists in 33 minutes. So it's like, I don't understand how they move the ball really well tonight. And we were super stagnant. And I don't understand why that is. And people will say the roster, but I look at their roster and it's worse in terms of passing than ours, but they move the ball. So I don't get it.
Yep. And then, a team like Cleveland, who came into tonight, I want to say they were in the 20s in terms of where they ranked in 3-point percentage. To give up 50% to them is just really bad.
Yep, so that's the team stats. Let's jump into the players. Starting off with Damian Lillard, he was our leading scorer tonight, had 8 assists as well, was actually a +5, so he's been a negative in most games, but tonight he was a +5. It was kind of our bench that struggled more than the starters, which hasn't been the case. Ends up shooting 7 for 15 from 2, which with how physical and how big they are isn't terrible. It's just the 3-point shooting. You know, if he goes 5 for 12 in this game, we win. He has 32 points. It looks like an efficient night. You know what I mean? He's 2 made threes away from having a good game. You know what I'm saying? Especially when you combine the 8 assists, couple of steals. That's just on the offensive end. Defensively, he didn't have a good game. But offensively, he looked closer to the Damian Lillard we expect. He looked explosive off the dribble. He did miss that lay-in down the stretch, and then Mobley got a dunk. We would have tied the game. Instead, it's Cleveland up 4. That was kind of a backbreaker on that play. It looked like he lost his balance a little bit, and that was just an unfortunate play. Overall, we need him to start hitting threes. If we're going to play such a stagnant, ISO-oriented brand of basketball, we're relying so heavily on Dame, and it's a lot of responsibility for him. He just has to be the Damian Lillard we all know and expect.
Yeah, just tough, and I don't get why he's playing 40 minutes in a game like this. Came out. Did he even sit more than a minute or two in the second half? Can't have that. I mean, I think we should lower his minutes and give him less burden and see if that helps. And the games we blew teams out, he didn't have to play at all in the fourth quarter in some of those games, and we did fine. I don't know. I just like to see us not rely on him, and if we learn how to play without relying on him when he's then good later in the season, then we have a really good team, because either Dame's on fire and we win easily because all the other guys learned how to contribute, or we win games that maybe we wouldn't have won in the past because he's struggling and we know how to win because of it. So in my opinion, while he's struggling, I mean, I'm not saying to not play him or anything, or to cut him down to 20 minutes or whatever, but he definitely shouldn't be playing 40 minutes in any game right now.
Yeah, absolutely agree. Let's move on and talk about Norman carrying. Chris with the graphics, he's a Norm fan, man. So Norman carrying power. He kind of did carry today. He was probably our best offensive player. 9 for 16 from the field, 3 for 6 from 3. Had some buckets in transition, 23 points. This is his second straight good offensive game. Also had 3 steals and 2 blocks. So statistically, a pretty good game from Norm. What'd you think about him?
Yeah, I thought Norm was good tonight. I really like his just put his head down and get us a bucket when we seem to be struggling. He had some timely ones tonight. I like that. We have a guy that doesn't have to shoot step back or pull up threes to be an effective player. So that's why I do think he is still a good fit, even at the small forward position, because he plays tougher and bigger than he is most times. And so I like that he was aggressive tonight. And I wish that, have him come off some off-ball picks, have him be more of a slasher at times.
And do it in different situations. Because, I feel like we do it where we have him loop towards the center of the court off a screen, but, otherwise we don't.
We do that with everyone, though.
That's literally, the one off-ball motion we run a lot, Mm-hmm. I don't know, have him catch a flare screen and go into the right side of the court with some action elsewhere, and maybe he has a driving lane without help at the rim because you're, keeping the off-ball defense preoccupied with movement. You know what I mean? So, I don't know. I would like to see him used a little bit more as a cutter. We just need to have more motion and screens and all that stuff in general, though. So, overall, go ahead.
So I saw someone... or Mute That Bozo says he wants to see others pick up on what Norm's doing and draw more fouls. Yeah, there were at least 2 quarters tonight where Cleveland had 0 fouls with less than 2 minutes left in a quarter. And it might have even been more than that. There's 2 that I noticed. And we did nothing to get them in foul trouble or do anything.
Yep, I agree with that. Let's move on and talk about... we got CJ McCollum next. 21.7 rebounds, 6 assists, only 1 turnover. So when he decided to pass, 6 assists, that's good. 7 for 19 from the field, 4 for 9 from 3 in 35 minutes. He took some bad shots today, and so did Dame. And I forgot to talk about this with Dame. That was another thing where I'm just watching this, and it's what are we doing with some of the shots that CJ and Dame took in this game? And that shot against Jared Allen that Chauncey called a timeout right after and got on CJ for, that was maybe the worst shot of the season. You have a big on you, and instead of trying to attack him and get past him when he's pressing you up on the perimeter, you just play right into his hands and just try and jack a 3 up over him and break the world out of it. That was horrible. And then Dame shooting some of his early clock contested fadeaway long 2s, that's a bad shot, especially when he's not making them. If he pulls up from 3 and is on balance, I'm comfortable with him taking those shots. That's how he's going to get going. That's a solid shot. Not only is it worth 3 points, but if he's on balance, cool. He hits those. Throughout his 9-year career, he's hit those. But when a guy like Dame or a guy like CJ early on the clock is sidestepping, falling backwards with a hand in their face from 18 feet, 19 feet, that's the worst shot you can get. And you can get that shot at any point. So to do it with 16, 17, 15 on the shot clock, whatever, is kind of unacceptable. And I don't know, we're not running much offense anyway, so maybe they figure, I have to go do something anyway, I might as well go do it now. Obviously the offense needs to be fixed. We've said it all stream, but some of the shot selection between CJ and Dame tonight was not good.
And we know for a fact CJ is a good, if not elite, catch and shoot shooter. So it's kind of sad that he's having to do so much off the dribble, especially pulling up from 3s off the dribble. That's not his game. I mean, I'm not as mad when he shoots from 8 to 10 feet as I do when he shoots a 3 with someone on him. But the one thing I can say is that Billups calling him out is probably the biggest optimism thing that I'll take from this game, is that Billups got on him right away. He knew it was a bad shot. Hopefully CJ recognizes that it's a bad shot and uses that to learn from that experience. Because this is a guy that could, instead of just the ISO crap and getting his own shot, if he just used his skills to be a guy who makes offense happen out of nothing and makes his teammates better, this guy could excel at that. And until someone gets through to him that he can do that, and doesn't have to be, Mr. Law and Order SVU or whatever he posts, when he breaks someone off the dribble. You don't have to play that way all the time. Like, it's not necessarily the best thing to have these highlight moments. Like, it's just playing within a team and setting up shots for others would be better for him, in my opinion. And now tonight he has, he has 6 assists, so that's good. That's what I like to see. But I did see a stat earlier where he's one of, I think it was 6 players that take over 20 shots a game and average less than 5 assists or something like that, which is not a list you want to be on. That's like a ball hog list. And so hopefully Billups can teach him that when you have the mismatch, that also means sometimes if you get by that guy, someone else has a mismatch or will be open because your original defender will have to come back to help that big in isolation. So hopefully that's a teachable moment, and I like that Billups did question him about it right away.
Yeah. And with some of the shots that Dame took too, I hope Chauncey says something. Here's the thing, though. Chauncey holds a little bit of the blame when the offense is literally just isolation and pick and roll right now, and your guards have to make something out of nothing on a consistent basis. Like, I mean, the coach has some of the blame there. So, like, the CJ shot definitely should have said something to him and did. Some of the Dame shots should definitely say to him, hey, I know you're trying to get going, but the fadeaway long 2s early in the clock, let's not settle for those. If you can get a 3 on balance off the dribble, definitely pull it, try and get those, or try and get to the rim. Because Dame, when he tried to get to the rim, was actually pretty good today. I mean, Dame shot 7 for 15 from 2. I feel like at least 4 or 5 of the misses were him shooting long 2s with a hand in his face. So in terms of getting to the rim, he got to the rim.
He got blocked a few times.
Yeah, but like that's part of it. And when he didn't, for the most part, he finished. I think he was efficient when he tried to go to the rim. He almost shot 50% from 2 anyway, and I don't think he made a mid-range shot and missed at least 3 or 4 of them. So, Chauncey,
he made his first one.
Okay, yeah, I mean, I don't know. Like, he missed a lot of mid-range shots tonight. I don't know the exact numbers on it, but, it's just a situation where, like, if you don't have the shot going, try and get it going by taking 3s or try and get to the rim, right? 3s are at the rim, and Chauncey should be saying that to Dame, and even to CJ, if CJ is... I did not mean to switch it to Anthony, but he's up next. But overall, it's like... Chauncey can't be too hard on him when his offense right now is not being implemented, at least the offense he said he wanted to run, and they have to rely on their guards creating the entire offense right now.
And for everyone saying, give me Stont's fence back, or this offense is never going to work, whatever.
We're running Stont's fence right now.
Well, it's so dumb. I mean, we run an offense for 9 years, and then you're only willing to give a coach 7 games before you determine whether he's good or not, or can implement an offense when our main focus is defense and all that stuff. So there is a good team in here. I'm just going to say that this team is capable of playing good basketball. They're shooting themselves in the foot right now. And as soon as that stops to happen, this team is going to be very difficult to defend, and they're going to be good enough defensively to keep themselves in games if they're missing shots and stuff. So I think I'm not worried about my predictions or anything, or the playoffs or anything like that. This team will be fine in the long run. But some of these things have to be coached out, and I'm hoping that Billups is the guy who can handle that.
That's funny that people were asking for Stott's fence. This is literally what we're running right now. We're running stagnant, isolation, and pick and roll. And then we'll have like a cutter loop to the middle of the floor and catch the ball on the 3-point line and then try and do something off the dribble. Like, that's what we're running. We're running basically what we ran last year. And it's like people don't pay attention to the freaking basketball that's played on the court, that they just sit here in the post-game show and are like, oh, well, guys are missing shots, so it must be like we need to run what Stotts ran and Chauncey's messing up. Instead of just watching the game, and it's not even hard to realize we're literally running what we were running last year. We're literally, like, it literally looks the same. I don't understand people, dude. It's like they say things just to say things without thinking about them, without actually watching the basketball being played on the hardwood. We're trying to break down a game here. We're not trying to come up with just random stuff to spew without thinking. And I wish, like, chat has kind of gone that route the past couple of games, and it sucks. And, like, it's just ridiculous. So, well, anyway, I don't want to get into a whole tangent again. It's just...
Yeah. Well, I'll finish it with this. Apple says, what if it's Dame that just doesn't want to change the offense? That's BS. We've heard him. I mean, he says he wants to win for Billups. He wants to buy in to Billups' things. So that's stuff that, I mean, it's the same with Nurk. Like, people are like, oh, same Nurk we've always seen, right? And it's like, well, I mean, you have to give Billups some time to work with him. He's had, a few weeks? It's like, you can't just change who a player is their whole career in, like, one training camp or, like, a few 7-game sample size. Like, I think at some point Billups is going to realize that the reason why we're struggling these past few games is because we're not playing the way he emphasized we should be playing. And I think Dame will absolutely be on board with trying whatever it takes to make that happen.
Yep, absolutely agree. Let's move on and talk about Ant. He has another good game tonight. 6 for 11 from the field. His dribble drive game is maybe the most improved skill on this team, because off the dribble, he's been really, really good. He's 5 for 7 from 2 tonight. Didn't get the 3 ball falling, was only 1 for 4, so it's nice for him to be able to still have a good offensive game by doing some stuff off the dribble.
Yeah, man, I'm so impressed with Ant, and I want him to get 30 minutes a game right now. This guy is so impressive, just the way he's shooting the ball. His pull-ups look nice. He seems really confident. As he had that nice, like, finger roll, but as he learns the game a little better, he'll see that on that one he had Nance, and if he just lobs that up, Nance has a dunk, and that might be an adjustment he makes to get his teammates more involved and get more assists and stuff like that. But other than that, it's hard to really complain about it, and I didn't feel like he was the culprit of too many of our defensive problems tonight. Not that he was great defensively, but he also wasn't, like, one of the main guys messing up a lot. So to combine that with the way he's playing on offense, I think he's easily been our most consistent player this year and deserves to get as many minutes as possible.
Yep, I agree with that. I want to get through the players quickly here. Let's talk about Robert 2 threes Covington. He hit 2 threes tonight, Eric. I don't know when the last time he shot a 2 was, but 6 points, 7 rebounds, 2 assists, 3 steals, a block. I mean, he gets steals, he gets blocks, but there's a lot of plays where he's out of position and gives up threes, and that's my biggest issue with his defense right now, and that continued tonight. He was maybe a little bit better, but still not where he needs to be. What were your thoughts on him?
Yeah, he was better tonight. But he's defensively, he's rebounding okay. The steals you like to see, the block you like to see. But it's really bugging me. Like, the first quarter, I feel like he gets 2 fouls, right? And there's still almost 7 minutes left in the quarter, 6 something. And Billups subs out both him and Nurk. And it's like, no, come on. Like, please put in Nance and, like, see if they can develop some chemistry, because I feel like right now Nance and Zeller don't really have chemistry yet, and Covington and Nurk don't really have chemistry, and they've played for 2 years now. So I'm just getting frustrated with the fact that it seems like it's like an either or thing right now. I know in the second half there was a little bit of switching, and we played Nurk with Nance for a few minutes in the fourth quarter. But then we went to the 4-guard lineup. But I just want to see some sort of chemistry between Nurk and Nance, Zeller, and Rocco. Like, find out a different mix of players right now. I think we're forcing it too much to want to work out with Rocco and Nurk because they're the starters, and Nance and Zeller because they're the bench unit. But I feel like if Nance was I forget if it was the Clippers or the Grizzlies game, but whatever game it was where Nance got the ball several times on the baseline near the basket and either finished or passed out to an open shooter. I feel like if he's in those spots, Nurk would find him, and that's a way to unlock Nurk's passing as well. But with Covington, you're basically eliminating a full player off the roster that's not cutting, not getting clean looks because he's never open really from three. He doesn't really do anything else. He doesn't get offensive rebounds. So like, I feel like you're kind of wasting Nurk's skills by playing him with Covington right now. And it's not either of their faults really, but I want to see more intermixed lineups.
Yeah, I agree with that. I don't know why we haven't gone to that, and that's something that I've been asking for as well. And you made the comparison to Nurkic playing with Vonleh, a guy who kind of played a little bit more inside and cut to the rim, and Nurkic found him and fed him a lot, and that could be Larry Nance Jr.
Well, Nance is way better than Vonleh too. Yeah. So.
Yeah, and Robert Covington just sits behind the 3-point line, so it's obviously not going to be him. So I would like to see that combination as well. But
that was the perfect time for it in this game. Like we're playing good. Like we're actually, because the last couple of games, we've gotten down, 18-11 or something like that, and today we're up like 18-11 or something like that. And so that would have been the perfect time to put Nance in there with the starters. You didn't have to take anyone out other than the guy in foul trouble, and just let that, see if you can continue with that momentum. And I felt like that was maybe a turning point in this game, because they immediately go on a run and cut it to 3 by the end of the quarter. And then we have a terrible second quarter, and everyone's minutes are all weird from that point on. And yeah.
Let's move on and talk about Nurk. I mean, we've talked about Nurkic. Anything that we said, anything that we didn't say that you want to say?
Clamps.
Chris going wild with it.
Yeah, I mean, I like that he didn't force the 3 in this game, I guess. I feel like we're not getting him the ball in the right spots. I want to see him get the ball, starting on the opposite block and just sealing your guy under the basket, lob it in, like kind of like the Shaq play, where you just pinned his guy so deep that there was nothing you could do about it. Mm-hmm. And every time we post him up, it's like I said, it's in the mellow spot where he either has to get around a guy, but if he's got a smaller, quicker guy on him, he's not going to be able to spin around him and get to the basket. And he's too awkward with the back downs most times, so it's kind of clunky. So he's going to either commit an offensive foul or not be able to move the guy if he's not aggressive. So I just feel like there's kind of like that high-low play that we made fun of all last year, but do it in a way where it's not like as obvious, and have some plays where he's either getting a cross screen or just sealing his guy in the middle of the paint, where he can just go up right away when he catches it and have the guy sealed on his back and use his off arm to kind of shield the guy. But we don't do enough of that. But that was kind of what Billups said, we're going to utilize a lot of that kind of stuff this year, and we haven't seen it yet. So I'm hoping it's coming, but that's something I'm going to hold Billups accountable for if we continue to see Nurk get the ball in bad positions like he has been.
Yeah, and I wonder what Nurkic is feeling after all the talk, like, yeah, we're going to utilize his passing and we're going to, utilize him better, and he's kind of being used the same way. Like, I don't know. That's got to be a little bit disheartening. I mean, there has to be something better offensively coming. I don't know why you'd say all this stuff and then not try it.
I think he's happy defensively with his role because he is being allowed to press up on those picks a little more than he ever was with Stotts.
Small.
But yeah, offensively, he's got to be a little frustrated. You're muted.
I was muted. You caught that hella fast. 7 points, 5 rebounds for Cody Zeller. Minus 17 in 14 minutes. I don't know if that was his fault.
Yeah.
I don't know. Like, obviously, noise with plus minus. There's 4 other players on the court affecting that. What were your thoughts on him?
I like his. It's the complete opposite with Nurk. I feel like we are getting him the ball in the right spots because he's now shown at least twice this season that his float game is strong. He's had a nice little floater off a pass from CJ. And also he had that nice little where he kind of hopped or stepped around. I forgot if it was Allen or Mobley or what, but he kind of went around the defender and got a reverse lay-in out of it. So I like him in those positions that we're going to we're putting Nurk in those same positions, and Nurk isn't quite as agile as Zeller, so it's not working out as well. But defensively, it's been rough watching him. Unlike Nurk, he's just committing to the screen way too long. I mentioned this before, but you can definitely see he's over helping and over hedging on the screens. And it's causing problems on the back end of our defense.
Yeah, and we got to time the recovery better. You know, there's nuances with running that type of scheme. Like, drop scheme is easier to run because there's really no attention to detail outside of maybe the big man and maybe the backline help guy. If you run a more aggressive pick and roll scheme, you need more attention to detail. The ceiling is higher. Like, if you do everything right, it's going to be a lot better than running drop scheme, because if you play an aggressive pick and roll defense perfectly, they're not going to have an opportunity for a shot, whereas if you run drop, they will at least be able to get a mid-range. A lot of times they're able to walk into a 3, even if you run it really well. So overall, it's has a higher ceiling. It's just like if one guy messes up, it all falls apart. If you don't time the recovery right, the big can get the ball, and if they move the ball well out of that, we're scrambling. So it's a situation where there's still some nuanced details of the, you know, aggressive pick and roll scheme we're trying to run that we still have to figure out. And Cody Zeller is one of those guys who is sticking a little bit too long with the ball handler and then needs to do a better job recovering correctly. So,
Agreed.
What's up?
Agreed.
Yep. Larry Nance Jr. doesn't score tonight. He's been having good offensive games. 21 minutes plays tonight. It's funny how like this is the most minutes he's gotten is the game he doesn't score. 5 rebounds, 2 assists, a steal. I don't have a problem with how he played. You know, he did pull a 3. It's just a situation where when we're super stagnant, he's not a guy that's going to get shots because he's not a guy who's going to go one-on-one. That's why we need to have cutters more so that, I mean, like, he'd be good as a cutter or a guy passing 2 cutters because he can pass the ball. So it's just, offensively, he'll have some good games even if we're stagnant, and then he'll have some games where he literally can't get a shot because he's not going to go out there and force his own. And tonight was one of those games, and, I mean, the theme is the offense has to be ran better. Like, that was the theme last post-game show. That's the theme this post-game show is we got to do some more things offensively than what we're doing right now.
Yeah. I'm going to look at it this way. If I don't notice any cuts, any good off-ball movement, any good positioning off-ball, I think that's a bad sign for Billups or for Nance in this game and the way we're running our offense. Yeah, so I just feel like we should all 3 of our bigs, I feel like we could utilize better to take the pressure off our guards. And it's not like they're selfish. They're all going to pass. So, I mean, they're all overpassing, if anything, right now. So, utilize those skills. And until we find a way to do that, I think our offense is going to continue to struggle with isolation.
Yep, 100% agreed. And then Nasir Little only plays 11 minutes tonight. Tony Snell got some minutes. He has 2 blocks. That's like the only stat he recorded. He did have a turnover and a foul and missed a 3 as well. So not much playing time for Nas tonight.
Yeah, I don't really get that either because once again he was in there in that lineup that got us going again. So I'd like to see him get rewarded for that. And yeah, he missed the 3, but so what? It was open, and he's shot the 3 pretty well this year on limited shots, but still hasn't been like, it's not like he's like 0 for 10 and keep shooting or something. But yeah, this is another guy that could be an elite cutter in my opinion and never cuts. So until that becomes an emphasis from this coaching staff, I think we're going to continue to struggle.
Yep, Trevin says, just a handoff guy right now. That's a good way to sum it up for a number of these guys.
Well, it's like last year. So what did we complain about all last year? We have like Derek Jones, we have Ant, we have Nas, and we get like, we never have them get easy baskets or cut to the basket. And when they do, like when Derek Jones Jr. just happened to cut and get a lob, I mean, he'd almost always get a dunk or a lay-in. And now he missed a few of those dunks early in the season. But for the most part, it resulted in good things. And we kept saying we have all this athleticism, but we have no plays or no way to get them going to the hoop or set a back screen or anything like that. And now this is the same thing that we're seeing with Nas. We have guys like Ant, who's now, like I said, getting to the rim a little bit more on his own, but it's still not designed to get him there. Dance, I'll say the same thing. Nurk, I feel like we could put in that position along the baseline to get more easier shots. So I feel like we're just doing such a disservice to our players to basically run the Dame CJ save us offense when we have these guys who, when they get that much attention, could make a timely cut or get a back screen for them and would be much better off for it and get some easy buckets every once in a while. For a team that's struggling to get easy buckets, I think that would be a good thing.
Yep, I agree. Shout out to Na Tran for a
What's up,
$5 no. The Braves are world champs. Anyway, got a question about the Blazers since they are struggling early. Do you guys think we should try a larger lineup? Eric.
What's up, now? That's my friend.
Okay, perfect. Then I'm glad I tossed it to you.
Yeah, congrats to the Braves. I'm glad they beat the Astros, even though it felt weird to root for the Braves. But yeah, I don't necessarily want to try a larger lineup, like starting lineup. I feel like we're fine. Our starting lineup's okay. I just feel like we should try different lineups throughout the game. And I don't think we should go to a 4-guard lineup very much anymore. Especially when, I mean, you can make the case that like, oh, well, you kind of have to put your best players in at the end. Well, then Dame shouldn't have played so much leading up to that point then. And then maybe we weren't in that position. So, yeah, I feel like we should go bigger at times. Might have been a good time to do it tonight, especially when they played Mobley and Jared Allen a lot together. But yeah, technically, I just want to see different lineups. I don't really think we need to purposely go larger, except for not to have the 4-guard lineup.
Yeah, but you got some good pieces on this team. Mix and match and see what it looks like and run some different offense with certain players. Like, I would love to see that. But we haven't so far. And here's the thing before we go into Chauncey Billups' interview. For anybody that might be saying, okay, you guys want a new coach this year. This is what you wanted. You wanted a new coach. We didn't care who the coach was. We just wanted a change of the style of play. That's what we wanted. It wasn't about, oh, we hate Terry Stotts. We can't stand Terry Stotts because of Terry Stotts the person. No, we wanted a change in the style of play. So I'm still optimistic that Chauncey, he's brought it defensively, and I think, we are better right now than we were last year defensively. We're still not good enough defensively, but we're better than we were last year because we were horrible last year. And we still have some improvement to make, and he's changed things defensively for the better. We'll just have to see if it ends up being good enough, or maybe we need a roster change. As far as the offense right now, I'm not satisfied with it. Long term, I'm hopeful still that he'll stick true to his words about what he wants to implement. But it's not about who is the coach, what's the name for our head coach. No, it's just about the style of play. It's that simple. And obviously Stotts wasn't going to change it, so we wanted to change for hopefully a difference in the style of play. That's really what this is about.
Yep, agreed.
Cooper says Billups pulled a Stotts in the interview. Oh, no, Eric. Oh, no. Let's watch this interview. Let's see here. Let me get onto the account that doesn't have YouTube ads, because the last time I played a Chauncey, last time I played a Stotts interview last year with ads on it, people freaked out at me. So, all right, we got the right account.
And for the record, even with this crappy road trip, our defense is still better than last year analytically. So that just tells you how bad our defense was last year.
Yeah, it's not saying much, unfortunately. So, Billups interview, here we go.
Wonder what that look was for.
What you the most about this one?
Say that again.
What bothers you most about this
I hate that. I hate that we're a counterpunching team, man. We wait for people to jump on us to start competing and fighting, and then you put yourself in a position where you got to play perfect down the stretch, and we're just not that type of team right now to be trying to play perfect down the stretch, right? We're just not playing good enough. And, it's frustrating to watch because, we try to prepare the best way we can. And then we just have, we have guys coming in that we feel like we can control every single night that comes in and hurts us, you get Windler tonight. He comes in, he goes 4 for 5 in the game. And, Jared Allen, he was a monster, he was a monster, but he had a night on us, so it's a little frustrating.
last 3 minutes you went 4 guards and Nurkic.
Mm-hmm.
What was behind that?
Well, I just wanted to give us we wasn't stopping them anyway. So I wanted to give us, our offensive weapons to be out there and try to get in the pick and roll and then create, wherever the ball landed at. I felt good about it. So I thought we was okay. We executed the play, scored on it, came back the next play and didn't run it. Yeah, Norm had a huge block. And so, that was kind of my thinking on that.
Yeah. Second quarter, but again, penetration and kick hurt you guys.
Hurt us. Well, what happens is, we're not doing a good job of keeping the ball in front of us. We're getting beat too quick. Our defense is designed to help your buddy, but when you get beat in one dribble, that help can't even be there yet. And now, you start trying to recover and help, and teams start making shots and put you in a really tough spot, but I got to do a better job, man, of demanding that from us. I got to do a better job of offensively too. I think freeing us up and getting us some better shots as well.
Round of applause, Eric, for a coach who will take accountability and says what he needs to do better, because we never heard that in previous seasons.
So everyone's freaking out about we weren't stopping him anyway. He's saying facts. Right?
Were we, guys? Were we stopping them? They shot 53% from the field and 50% from 3. So were we?
Here's why that doesn't bother me. It's the fact that he knows that it's not acceptable, right? Whereas Stotts would say that in the playoffs after a whole season of him not doing crap to fix it. Mm-hmm. Now we have some guy in Game 7 or 8 saying, you know what, like it's just not there defensively yet. So I figured we might as well, if we're going to have a chance to win this game, we'd have to put out a lineup that scores instead. And it almost worked. I mean, we at least gave ourselves a chance after being down 6 with like 30 seconds left. We at least gave ourselves a chance to tie the game.
Yeah,
but
like if we're up there, like he doesn't throw out that lineup.
Right.
You throw out more scoring if you need to score a bunch to make up a deficit. Like that's the thing is if you're down 10, you have to score. Like you have to go on a run where you score 3-4 times in a row to make up that deficit. Obviously, you can't let the other team score 3 or 4 times, but like you need more explosiveness and firepower offensively if you're going to make up a deficit. So had he like thrown it out there when we're up 6 and then we give up 5 buckets in a row and we lose because of it, that'd be a horrible decision. And I don't think he would do that. So like this scenario, I get it. You know, it's not a situation where like I think he's like, yeah, I'm gonna throw out in a tie game in the second quarter. I'm gonna throw 4 guards out there. He hasn't done that, so it's not like he wants to. But in a situation like tonight, when we weren't stopping him anyway, and the only way we were is if we forced turnovers, which we did by pressuring the ball on the perimeter and being quick. It wasn't because we were playing bigger or anything. Then yeah, I mean, to make up a deficit, I get it.
Well, the other thing too is, so that's where Stotts would have ended it, right?
Mm-hmm.
But then he says, I need to be better. He took accountability. He said, I need to make sure we're getting better shots on offense, which is exactly what we've been saying this whole time. And that's why I still have faith that this guy is the right guy for the job, because he knows we need to do better. And it's not just, Dylan Windler made 4 out of 5, and what are you supposed to do, right? Like, no, he made 4 out of 5, and I got to make sure that that stops happening.
Yeah,
and
it's not just they just made shots, man.
Yeah, and this is why I'm confident in him, because he took accountability. He says he needs to coach better. So the people who are just quoting that one tweet are conveniently leaving out the thing, and that's something they said about Olshey all summer. Oh, he never takes accountability, even though he did take accountability this summer. But so Billups, here he is, 8 games in, already taking accountability that he's not doing a good enough job. And I guarantee you this guy's not going to just not try to fix that. He's going to do everything in his power to make sure that this team gets better.
Yeah, and I mean, when it's been good, it's been really good. So that's why I'm not going to sit here and buy any of this stuff like it's definitely 100% the roster, because we had our 3 best defensive games this season are better than our 3 best defensive games last season, and that's with us only playing 8 games. So if it's the roster, how did we have 3 really good defensive games this season so far out of 8 games? 3 out of the 8 games we've had really good defensive games. When last year, I don't even know if we had 3 really good defensive games for the entire season. Right? Like maybe if we were lucky, and maybe if we were facing a bottom feeder, but we played the Clippers, the Grizzlies, and the Suns for those games. That's better than the best 3 performances last year defensively, so that's why I don't buy it's the roster, because if you're making the argument that the roster is incapable of doing that, then how did they do it? How did they do it? It doesn't add up to me. So we have to wait and see. They're making a bunch of mistakes that are fixable that aren't due to size, and you'll have people that just spew the same talking points they're told, the same talking points they hear, and that's the roster's too small, it can't compete defensively. And it's like a lot of the mistakes aren't because of size or anything. So we've tried to point that out in the past. Some people will ignore it and still spew the same talking point over and over and over and over and over again, which like is Owen. Fine, I guess. Like Owen. Like Owen, man.
It's just spent offseason saying our problems weren't roster related, and here we are, roster with the new coach, still getting beat. But that's because we're doing the same things we did to make it happen last year. And until we improve that, but we've seen when we do improve it, when we do move the ball, when we do have good movement, when we do have players in the right position, when we do rotate correctly, we can get stops. We can be a good defensive team. We can be a good offensive team. And that's with Dame struggling the entire season so far. We were still 6th in offensive efficiency, even with Dame playing like complete garbage most of the season, right? So it's not, I don't know. It's crazy to me that these same people defend Stotts no matter what he did for years, and he got 9 years to try and change it or fix it or make this team better, and he failed to do so. Yet after 8 games, it's a total loss, and this roster is incapable of doing anything, even though 3 out of those 8 games we've seen what this roster is capable of.
Yeah, that's almost half of our games.
Yeah,
like, just if we could just do on the road what we did at home, we wouldn't even be having this conversation. We'd be sitting at like 6-2 despite Dame shooting bad and be like, dang, look how good we are despite Dame not making. Imagine once Dame starts making shots. But no, it's like the floor is still very low. We haven't figured things out, at least how to do it on the road. We've done it at home though the last 3 games, so it's in there somewhere. Let's move on with this.
The second quarter rose from the struggle. I mean, you went into the first or second quarter with the lead. You set up scored by 10. It seemed like felt real fast.
Yeah, that was and that really, that was the first time all year that the second unit wasn't really really good. But that hey man, that happens sometimes. That happens sometimes. We shouldn't have to go into games hoping that our second unit gets us the lead or pushes the lead up. Our first unit has to be good. So I got no problem at all with those guys. I mean, they come in and play hard. It wasn't their night for the most part, especially in the first half.
Is that the first time Dame has started before?
Yeah, it was. Well, he had finally, he hit a couple shots, and I wanted he wanted to stay and play the rest of the game, but I can't play the rest of the game. But I wanted to have him in there for at least a minute or so, run a couple plays for him to see what we can get out of it, and then get him a break.
It looked like he came out at halftime a little gingerly.
Mm-hmm.
Did he complain about that, or did you guys talk about that at all?
No, he didn't complain about anything. I seen what you seen, but he didn't complain. It didn't change anything.
We're gonna go to the Zoom real quick. Aaron Petrus, you have a question?
Yeah, Coach. Second game in a row where the opposing team's big man had a big night. Drummond the other night, and then Allen tonight. Tell me about how much they're hurting you, and then we're not really getting the same type of production countering with Nurkic.
Yeah, that's 2 nights in a row that a big has hurt us, but a lot of that is not on Nurk. Nurk is up at the level of the screen, or Cody, both of them, and then they get behind the defense a little bit. The help is not quite there in time, and then Rubio and those guys were finding them. And then obviously the louder buckets late, in the fourth quarter where they just kind of threw it down there to him, and he got those buckets. Those ones hurt, but I mean, this league is like that, Jared Allen's a really good young player. He's not really a scorer per se, but he had a night tonight, he really did. But that's not something that, I would say is on Nurk or Cody. I mean, our defense is designed to help each other, and sometimes when it's not there, whoever is in that matchup that looks like is in that matchup looks like they, got taken advantage of.
How do you, I guess, sum up this trip? Do you feel like you made progress? Or
That's a disappointing trip, in my opinion, because I felt like we could have won every single game. Every single game. I felt like we had a chance and could have won them all, and don't win one. So it is a disappointing trip. I'm pretty sure all those guys in the locker room probably feel the same way, But we can't get them back, The schedule just keeps going. We got to learn from what we can learn from in this game, turn the page, and get ready for Friday.
Chauncey, I think it's admirable that you're trying to take some ownership or take some blame by saying, hey, I need to get more out of these guys. But bottom line is a lot of big name players on your roster are not performing up to their level.
Mm-hmm.
How do you handle that? How do you try to urge that out of them or get that out of them?
Yeah, I think I keep on just trying to maybe try new things or run new things, and defensively, change up the schemes, go zone, I just have to be creative or try to keep being creative. And I know, like I said, I know that, we're going to have our nights where we're on fire and we're kicking butt. But the times that we don't, we still got to have something we can lean on. And my hope is that our defense is what we can lean on. But when we get beat so quick, there's no coverage for that. It just isn't. There's no coverage for that.
What did you think of the last play?
Ours?
Yeah.
We didn't get to what we were looking for, but anytime I can get the ball in Dame's hands with a 7-footer on him, I feel good about that. I can't draw up a play that can get us that, So it worked out for us. He didn't make it, but we didn't execute it great.
What were you looking to do?
I can't tell you. What if we need it next game? Want me to tell all my secrets to you? We were looking to make a 3.
Make it 3. All right, we'll wrap it up there.
All right.
Alrighty, Eric said a lot of stuff that you and I have said. Like those pick and rolls, passing to Allen aren't necessarily Nurkic's fault. And I don't know. What were your thoughts on that press conference?
Yeah, I mean, he continues to say the right things, in my opinion. Still yet to be determined, though, if he can get his vision to show up on the court. And we've seen it in flashes, and he's saying the right things. He wants to play the right way, in my opinion. He doesn't want to play the way we've played the last few games. So I'm hopeful that it'll still turn out the way we envisioned it and the way he envisions it. There is a chance that he's not capable of transforming what he says onto the floor. Maybe he just doesn't know how to teach it the right way, because he is still a rookie coach. But also, you got to give him a chance to try and learn. And, he's going to try things that don't work, and then he's going to learn from those, hopefully, and eventually find his groove and do these things. So he can think one way is the right way to teach them how to do this or how to become a better defensively by accountability and all that stuff. But there might be a time where maybe he has to switch the lineup around or switch, like he said, go to a different defensive scheme that they can figure out a little easier. Just something, maybe throwing some hard traps on that screen, I think would be a good way to not necessarily like do that a lot, but like just mix it up and do some different things. And every once in a while, just do a hard trap on those pick and rolls to kind of take the defense or the offensive team off guard. And those are things that he hasn't quite learned when to implement and when to do those things, or when to stick with what you want to do as a base defense and all that kind of stuff. So, and then you can't really account for, you can game plan all you want, but if your guards are getting beat off the dribble by guys like freaking Korkmaz and Georges Niang and Dylan Windler and Jetty Osman and stuff like that, like, I mean, at some point, those guys have to learn how to keep their man in front of them as well. And it has nothing to do with size, because having guards, you would think, should make us quicker on the perimeter and less likely to have penetration kill us, as opposed to getting thwarted inside. And that's something that is promising to me, and I'm sure you'll say the same, because these mistakes that are happening are not because we're small for the most part. It's because, like I said, you can't game plan for a ball handler to break down your defense and cause all these problems, because when you're scouting a team and breaking it down for a game, it's not something that you have to break down. And you should be concerned about Garland and Sexton beating you. You shouldn't be worried about like their backup wings beating your offense and causing chaos and getting all your guys out of position. So that's something that he's got to demand, that his players play smarter, close out better, and are in the right position to defend those drives so that doesn't keep happening.
Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of issues with the defense, and I mean, the easy and kind of, no offense, but the easy and casual thing to do is just say size.
Yeah.
As it doesn't take any thought to say that. I mean, a lot of the issues aren't size-based. So, I mean, sure, there might be a problem here or there because of size, but I want to see this team clean up the stuff that they can clean up that they're not incapable of doing because of their 3-guard lineup. And that's what I'll focus on. So, that's how we're going to approach things. Let's head around the NBA. We have 9 games today. Game number 1, you got the Celtics beating the Magic 92-79. Extremely low-scoring game there. The Celtics had a players-only meeting recently after Marcus Smart called out Jaylen Brown. Yeah, that was today. Marcus Smart called out Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum for not wanting to pass the ball. And those guys didn't do any better in the assist department. Tatum only 3 assists, Brown only 3 assists, and the offense wasn't good, 92 points, but they still get a 13-point win in this one. Tatum struggled. What were you going to say?
I believe they were down double digits in the first half, too.
Yeah, they outscored Orlando 31-10 in the third quarter. They were down 2 at halftime, so that would have been a really bad loss for Boston. They sit at 3-5, just like Portland right now, kind of 2 teams in similar situations with brand new coaches. Obviously, we didn't have anybody call anybody out yet. Hopefully, that won't be the case. But Jaylen Brown shot the ball well, 28 points, 10 for 17. Jason Tatum was only 4 for 16 for 14 points for the Magic. They were led by 13 from Wendell Carter Jr. and Cole Anthony. Franz Wagner, candidate for Rookie of the Year with how he's been playing. He's coming off a 28-point game, only had 9 tonight. And then Jalen Suggs, another rookie, 4 for 14. I want to see my guy.
He's struggling so
I want to see. He'll be fine as a shooter,
Yeah.
I think. He's just like the form. Like once he figures out how to shoot, he'll be lethal. Because he can pass, he's explosive to the rim. It's just guys don't really have to respect his shot right now. So once he's able to hit some shots, it'll open everything up. And I trust that he'll be able to figure that part of his game out. In the second game tonight, you had the Pacers beating the Knicks. And this is our next opponent. The Pacers coming into Portland on the 5th with a little bit of momentum after beating a Knicks team that was headed into this game at 5-2. The Pacers were led by 25 from Miles Turner. He was 7 for 10 from 3. So it'll be interesting to see kind of our defense against a stretch 5 who will be setting a lot of those screens. And we go up against our first good big man. It was supposed to be Joel Embiid. He missed the Sixers game. It's going to be Domantas Sabonis. It'll be interesting to see how we guard him. Sabonis tonight, only 10 points, 7 rebounds, 3 assists in 34 minutes. Karis LeVert had 21. The rookie out of the University of Oregon, Chris Duarte, will have a bit of a homecoming game on the 5th as he heads back to the state in which he played college ball. Torrey Craig's been playing good off the bench. He had 12 for the Knicks, 23 for Barrett, 18 for Randall, but they did not have a good offensive night.
Well, Turner rarely has back-to-back good games, so he's going to be terrible next game and score like 4 points.
Fingers crossed, man. Fingers crossed. But no one else will finally put together 2 good games in a row. I mean, when we're at home, I don't know what to expect next game at all. We'll preview it tomorrow on Blazers Uprise Live, going live around 3:30 p.m. on our second channel. That is linked in the description below. Going live Mondays and Thursdays, 3:30 p.m. The third game of the night, the Wizards are starting to struggle. They've lost 2 in a row after starting 5-1. They lose to the Raptors, who are now 6-3. The Raptors got 33 from Fred VanVleet. He also had 6 assists, so good performance for him. Anunoby had 21 points. They're still missing Scotty Barnes, still missing Pascal Siakam, but look pretty good right now. The Wizards.
It was rumored that Siakam will be ready in about 2 weeks.
Yeah, and hopefully he'll be in a Blazer uniform in 2 months. For the Wizards, they get 25 from Bradley Beal, 15 off the bench from Montrezl Harrell. He's been playing well. He got 10 free throw attempts, 14 from Raul Neto. That's just a weird team. I don't know what that team is. Outside of Beal, they don't have much talent, in my opinion, but they've been in pretty much every game and won 5 of their 8. So it'll be interesting to see how they progress long term.
Mm-hmm.
Game number 4 was ours. tragic. Game number 5, the Sixers beat the Bulls 103-98. A lot of low-scoring games tonight. That is evidence of how defenders can now murder offensive players. I probably shouldn't say that. I might get demonetized. This is YouTube after all. But 22 from Seth Curry leads the Sixers, who were still without Tobias Harris. They did have Joel Embiid back. He was 6 for 18, 18 points, 9 rebounds, 7 assists, so he was close to a triple-double. George Niang had 18 off the bench, so he played good against us. He played good tonight. That dude's always been a scrub whenever I've watched him until the game against us, but he's playing pretty well. For the Bulls, DeMar DeRozan, 37 points. Zach LaVine, 27 points. They didn't get much outside of that. Vucevic has really struggled this year. Only 4 points in 36 minutes for Nikola Vucevic. So that, I don't know, man. Wendell Carter could put up the stats that Vucevic is doing right now. Interested to hear Reese's take on that since he's our resident Vucevic fan.
Yeah, Sixers, what, they're 6-2 now, I think. And,
both these teams are 6-2 now, yeah.
People kind of wrote them off when Simmons wasn't around, but man, they're still pretty good.
Yep. And then I forgot what I was going to say. Derek Jones Jr. played today. He played 17 minutes off the bench for the Bulls. 2 steals, 4 points, 1 rebound, 1 for 2 from the field, 0 for 1 from 3. So he hasn't been playing for them. Nice to see him get some run. And then
he's played since Pat Williams was out for the year in the last 2 games. But.
Yeah, so I guess he's their Pat Williams replacement. Obviously not as good. The Nets beat the Hawks. They moved to 5-3. Hawks fall to 4-4. Kevin Durant has a good game for the Nets. Let me pull up the box score here. James Harden, 5 for 14, 5 for 11 from 3, only 1 free throw. That's still crazy to see on a consistent basis. James Harden shooting less than 10 free throws a game and not even coming close. I mean, he's had games of 2 free throw attempts, 3 free throw attempts. Dame is kind of in the same situation right now. I think the NBA has overcorrected in regards to the guys that got a lot of free throws. Luka has kind of been in the same boat as well. So interesting to see how this plays long term, if they adjust or if the NBA realizes maybe we should kind of find a good middle ground instead of completely overcorrecting things. But the Nets win 18 from Joe Harris, 16 from Harden, 14 from Patty Mills, 10 from LaMarcus Aldridge, and the loss, 26 points on 10 for 11 shooting, including 6 for 6 from 3 from DeAndre Hunter. So he had a pretty nice game for them. Let's go to other scores. That's not the right... No, that is the right sheet. There was 11 games tonight. I can't count. The Clippers play the Timberwolves. They win. The Clippers now have a better record than us, which is sad because I just remember them being like 1-5. They're now 3 no, what they were just 1-4. They're now 3-4. Yep. They're now sitting at 3-4. They beat the Timberwolves by a score of 126-115. Paul George 32. Reggie Jackson 29. Nick Batum had 20. He was 7 for 10 from the field and 6 for 8 from 3, so a good game for the former Blazer. Terrence Mann 6 for 7, 17 points off the bench for the Timberwolves. Karl Anthony Towns kind of struggled tonight, 6 for 16 from the field. He had 18, 11 boards, 3 assists, 4 steals. He's been playing better defense this year. Anthony Edwards had 28 to lead them. Timberwolves fall to 3-4. You got Memphis beating Denver once again. I think this is the second game in a row.
Sometime in a week, yeah.
Yep. And this one was a close one. They pull out a 2-point win. I've got to pull up the box scores faster here. Jaren Jackson Jr. 22 in the win. John Morant 18. Kyle Anderson 16 off the bench for the Nuggets. 34 points, 11 boards, 5 assists for Jokic. Outside of that, Will Barton had 26 points. He's had some good games this year. He also had 7 assists. Michael Porter Trash Can has struggled. He shot the ball decently well today, but only 12 points in 35 minutes. Everybody was saying he's going to average like 25 points per game, and he hasn't even been close. He's averaging around, 13, 14 a game. So Michael Porter Trash Can, man. Not the season everybody was expecting out of him.
Yeah, I'm not going to talk about anyone else's shooting.
You're not. Just don't say the phrase "easy money" when it comes to anybody, man.
Oh, I'm gonna say it tomorrow.
Don't. Oh no. Oh well, I mean, Blazers don't play.
Blazers don't play tomorrow.
But yeah, I mean, don't. I just say we retire the phrase after the jinx job you did on the Blazers against the Sixers. But the Mavericks beat the Spurs 109-108. Let me look at Luka's stat line. Interested to see what he did in this game. Jalen Brunson led him with 31 points. He got to the line 15 times. So I see Jalen Brunson getting 15 free throws, and it's like Dame can barely get 5. And I just don't understand it. I do not understand it. Luka only got 2 free throws. Was 0 for 2 from the free throw line. 10 for 25 from the field, 3 for 12 from 3. He had 23 points, 12 rebounds, 7 assists. I don't understand the free throw thing. Doesn't make sense. But, a couple games still going on right now. You got the Hornets and the Warriors, 53-52 Golden State at half, and then the Kings beating the Pelicans 56-52 at half. Let's look at some notable performances tonight. DeMar DeRozan has been playing great. Paul George has been trying to carry that Clippers team. Van Vliet 33-6. Miles Turner, hopefully he doesn't have a game like that against us. Fingers crossed. Here are the standings, Western Conference. Portland down to 11. You hate to see it, but everything is still pretty jumbled up. I mean, we're 3.5 games back of number 1. We're literally 2 games back of the 3rd place Los Angeles Lakers, and we have a game against them coming up. We beat them. I mean, we're right there in the thick of things. It's early on in the season, so not time to panic just yet. 2 teams with 1 loss, that's Utah and Golden State. 1 team with 1 loss in the East, that's Miami, who has been dominant defensively. You have 9 teams above 500 right now. 11 teams at least at 500 in the East. The East is looking better than the West this year. Of course, it's still early and things are still jumbled there, but I mean, the East looks really competitive, and it's going to be interesting to see which teams are able to make the playoffs, especially since you have 2 teams that have kind of been regulars in the playoffs in years past, and Boston and Indiana sitting there at 12 and 13.
Yeah, and just real quick, I want to talk about Miami for a second.
Yeah.
So watch their game. Who did they play? Dallas the other day.
Mm-hmm.
This is a team that the Portland coaches should be looking at film at. They had some rotations that I hadn't really seen before in that game, and I think the Blazers could do what they did because it doesn't take good defenders necessarily to do it.
Mm-hmm.
But the other team was obviously trying to attack and get Duncan Robinson isolated in bad situations, and their game plan for avoiding that was brilliant. And I've never seen a team rotate as well and as in the manner they were doing. And this is after in the finals, in the bubble, they were doing something similar. It was a little different because they would just sag off the screen, let the guy defending the screen take the ball handler momentarily and then push him back to the original defender. But they had some things where they were rotating the other 3 guys underneath, and it was not giving up any easy shots. And now it could be they could probably get exposed if the other team has a good big man that's really skilled. But against a team like Dallas, who I think Powell was like the only big man they really played in that game, it was just really fascinating to watch the kind of things they were doing to avoid Duncan Robinson getting on an island at all. And then on offense, they were moving the ball and running some really cool plays. So if anything, I think we should try to emulate some of those things. And I know we got to clean up some of our own problems first, but in the future, I hope they're looking at teams like that and seeing what they're doing defensively. And it's not just because of having elite defenders, which they obviously do have elite defenders. And it helps when you have a guy like Bam who could just switch and be fine on a good guard like Luka. But that's not what was happening for a good portion of that game. They were doing things to avoid getting their guys in bad situations. And I'd like to implement some of those things with the Blazers.
Yeah, and that's what good coaches do. They see what teams across the league are having success with, and I mean, a lot of good coaches will copy what other teams are doing, and try and implement it, maybe put a little bit of their own spin on it, but that has been prevalent in coaching in any sport for a while now. So, that's something that Chauncey should definitely be doing, and I saw you posted footage of one of the rotations, and I agree. They're doing some interesting stuff there, and it looked pretty good. I mean, the results are really good. They've been the best defense in the league so far this season, so definitely try and emulate the best. I agree with that. Anything else you want to say about this game before I sign off?
No, just thank you everyone for tuning in, and yeah, it's always tough when everyone's grumpy and mad and all that kind of stuff. So I'm very sad, disappointed, mad at the play the last 3 games, but I'm also hoping that we see the team very soon that we want to be, because I think even at our worst, we're not this bad, especially if Dame plays anywhere near what he's capable of playing. So I think we'll be fine, and I'm not panicking yet. But thank you everyone for watching.
Yep, I agree with all of that. We will continue to try and be reasonable, even as chat gets less and less reasonable, unfortunately. We'll see if the team can turn things around at home. The Indiana Pacers are up next on Friday. Back to late games. I hate these early games, so I'm happy that we're going to be playing the Pacers at it's a Friday, but I think it's still at 7 p.m. because it's local. Yeah, 7 p.m. So we'll have the post-game show going live around 9:30. Happy to be doing it then instead of going live around 6:30 or whatever. So we'll have a stream tomorrow at 3:30 p.m. Pacific time. We'll have picks against the spread. If you've never tuned in for that segment, it's a lot of fun. And it's a lot more chill than some of these post-game streams have been after losses. So definitely tune in for that. That link is in the description below to our second channel, which we hosted on.
And chat needs some help with their voting for their picks. So
Chat's in last.
If you're good at picking games against the spread, come help chat so they're not in last place anymore.
Yeah, chat's been struggling. And I've been struggling, so yeah, I need help. But, you know, I'm on my own. You guys have all your collective brain powers for that segment. So, yeah, hopefully we catch you tomorrow. If not, hopefully we catch you Friday night for a post-game show after a win. That would be phenomenal. Fingers crossed for that one. The stream audio will be on Spotify. If you missed a portion of it, I will upload that tonight. It was hard with the back-to-back, and, you know, I forgot the Philadelphia game, but after these losses, you know, I don't know if you guys want to even revisit it the next day, but for those of you who do, the Spotify audio will be up at some point tonight for you to listen to tomorrow. Other than that, follow us on Twitter, links in the description box below, and we're out of here. That's a wrap for this post-game show after a failure of a 3-game Eastern Conference road trip. Good luck to the Blazers on Friday. Hopefully they can turn things around. Until whenever we catch you next, have a good rest of your night. As always, peace out. Go Blazers.